What if the criticism of others was like the barking of a distant dog, audible perhaps, but completely irrelevant to the course of your journey? What if you could build a mind so resilient, so self-assured, and so rooted in its own principles that the opinions of the crowd become a faint and powerless noise? This is not a superpower you are born with. It is a fortress you must build, and today you will be given the blueprints. How to Stay Unbothered by Criticism Daily, compiled and published by Stoic Power. Lesson 1. Emotional distance builds inner armor. Imagine you are a deep-sea diver exploring the majestic and silent world of the ocean floor. You are protected from the immense, crushing pressure of the water above you by a powerful, masterfully engineered diving suit. This suit creates a life-sustaining space of calm, breathable air around you, a personal atmosphere that is completely separate from the hostile environment outside. The crushing pressure is still there, but it cannot touch you. Your distance, your separation from the environment, is the very source of your safety and your ability to function. Now imagine a foolish diver who descends into these same depths wearing nothing but his bathing suit. He is immediately and catastrophically crushed by the pressure, a victim of an environment he was not prepared for. The inner conflict for us is that when we enter the deep and often high-pressure environment of social interaction, we are almost always the foolish diver. The painful and deeply ingrained problem is that we lack any form of psychological or emotional armor. We have no suit that creates a healthy distance between our core self and the often crushing pressure of other people's opinions and criticisms. We are emotionally porous. When someone directs a critical comment, a negative judgment, or a dismissive tone our way, we experience it as a direct and crushing force upon our very soul. We internalize the pressure completely. This leaves us feeling perpetually vulnerable, anxious, and thin-skinned. We spend our lives terrified of the social pressure, avoiding situations where we might be judged and feeling crushed and wounded when we inevitably are. The transformative solution is to stop diving unprotected and to begin the deliberate, daily work of forging and fitting your own suit of psychological armor. It is the Stoic art of creating a healthy emotional distance that allows you to move through the world, uncrushed by its pressures. The core Stoic idea that forms the very material of this armor is the powerful and practical dichotomy of control. The pressure of the ocean, the opinions, judgments, and criticisms of other people, is an external force, and therefore it is completely and eternally outside of your control. To attempt to control what other people think is as futile as a single diver trying to hold back the entire ocean. The only thing that is truly within your control is your own inner environment, your judgments, your responses, and the integrity of your own character. The armor is forged by focusing relentlessly on what you can control and learning to become indifferent to what you cannot. The benefit of this is that you become psychologically resilient. The pressure of criticism no longer crushes you because it can no longer reach your core self. You can hear the criticism. You can even learn from it if it has value, but you do not feel it as a personal, crushing attack. This creates a profound sense of inner freedom and unshakable confidence. The actionable step to begin building this armor is to practice the emotional airlock technique. The next time you receive a piece of criticism or a negative judgment, instead of letting it rush in and crush you, you must pause. In that pause, you will create a mental airlock between you and the criticism. You will do this by asking yourself one simple question. Is this opinion that I've just heard something that is within my complete control, or is it something that is outside of my complete control? The answer, of course, is that it is always outside your control. By simply asking this question, you are reminding yourself of the fundamental boundary between your inner and outer worlds. You are sealing the helmet of your suit. This simple act of categorization creates a powerful mental distance. It stops the pressure from flooding your system. I urge you to try this the very next time you feel the pressure of someone's criticism. Create the airlock. Realize that their opinion exists in their universe, not yours, and you are protected by the space between. But why do we give their opinions so much weight in the first place? Often, it is because we are identifying with the wrong part of ourselves. Our next lesson is on how criticism is often a reflection of the speaker's own pain. Before we continue, please subscribe to the Stoic Power channel to commit to the journey of forging your own inner armor. Lesson 2. Criticism reflects the speaker's pain. Imagine you are walking through a beautiful, serene garden. Suddenly, you encounter a dog that is chained to a post. The dog is barking furiously, snarling and lunging at you with all its might. A foolish and reactive person would take this personally. He would feel that the dog's aggression is a judgment on his own character. He might get angry and start shouting back at the dog, or he might feel fear and shame, believing he has done something to deserve this attack. The wise and compassionate observer, however, would have a different reaction. He would not take the dog's barking personally at all. He would look past the aggression and see the true source of the behavior. The chain, the post, the dog's own fear, and its own suffering. He would see that the barking is not about him. It is a desperate and misguided expression of the dog's own painful circumstances. The inner conflict we face when we are criticized is that we are almost always the foolish person, barking back at the chained dog. The painful problem is that we have a deep-seated, ego-driven tendency to make everything about us. When someone criticizes us, insults us, or speaks to us with anger, our immediate and automatic assumption is that their words are a true and accurate reflection of our own failings. We get defensive, we feel ashamed, and we get drawn into an argument about the content of their words, because we have made the fundamental error of believing that the criticism is actually about us. This makes us incredibly vulnerable to the moods and the inner turmoil of every person we meet. We are constantly reacting to the symptoms of their suffering, their angry words, their harsh judgments, without ever diagnosing the underlying disease. The transformative solution is to cultivate the profound and compassionate wisdom of the second observer. It is the art of learning to look past the surface-level aggression of a criticism and to see it for what it almost always is: a projection, a reflection of the other person's own inner state, their own pain, and their own metaphorical chains. The core Stoic idea here is the practice of rational empathy and the understanding that, as Marcus Aurelius wrote, men exist for the sake of one another. Teach them then, or bear with them. The Stoics believe that people do not act viciously out of a love for evil, but out of ignorance. They act from a place of their own false judgments, their own fears, and their own pain. A person who is in a state of inner peace and wisdom does not feel the need to lash out and criticize others. Therefore, a harsh criticism is almost always a symptom of the speaker's own inner turmoil. The benefit of this mindset is that it allows you to depersonalize criticism completely. It robs the insult of its personal sting. This allows you to remain calm and centered, and it opens the door for a more compassionate and even effective response, because you are responding to the person's pain, not to their attack. The actionable step to practice this is the look for the chain exercise. The next time you are on the receiving end of a harsh or unfair criticism, you must pause. In that pause, instead of focusing on how the criticism makes you feel, you will shift your focus entirely and ask this compassionate, analytical question: what pain, what fear, or what insecurity in this person might be the true source of these words? What is the invisible chain that is causing this dog to bark so furiously? You are not trying to be a psychoanalyst. You are simply shifting your perspective from one of defensive self-concern to one of compassionate, detached observation. This practice will feel radical at first, but it is a game changer. It will allow you to see the suffering behind the anger, the fear behind the arrogance. I challenge you to try this the next time you feel attacked. Look for the chain. It will set you free. Understanding the other person's pain is one step, but how do we then control our own reaction? Our next lesson is on the crucial law of controlling our reactions, not other people's words. If this lesson has offered you a new perspective, please like this video. Lesson 3. Control reactions, not people's words. Imagine you are a skilled and unflappable ship's captain, navigating the vast and unpredictable ocean. The ocean represents the words and actions of other people, You know with an absolute and unshakable certainty that you cannot control the ocean. You cannot command the waves to be still, you cannot order the winds to be calm, and you cannot stop a storm from forming. To even attempt to do so would be an act of supreme madness and futility. The wise captain, therefore, wastes zero energy trying to control the sea. Instead, he focuses 100% of his attention and his skill on the one and only thing he can control, the rudder of his own ship. His mastery is not in his command of the ocean, but in his command of his vessel's response to the ocean. The inner conflict for us is that when we are faced with the stormy words of criticism, we almost always act like a foolish and panicked captain who is trying to shout at the waves to stop. The painful problem is that we are obsessed with trying to control what other people say, think, and feel about us. We get into long, exhausting arguments, trying to force someone to retract their criticism or to change their opinion of us. We spend hours ruminating, replaying conversations in our head, desperately trying to figure out the magic combination of words we could have used to make them see things our way. This is a profound and tragic waste of our life force. We are trying to control the ocean. This not only guarantees frustration and failure, but it also means we are completely neglecting the one thing we actually have power over: our own response, the rudder of our own mind. The transformative solution is to fully and completely internalize the wisdom of the master sailor. It is to consciously and deliberately abandon the impossible and insane project of trying to control other people's words and to turn your full attention to the noble and empowering art of mastering your own reaction. The core Stoic idea that makes this possible is, once again, the dichotomy of control, applied with surgical precision to communication. The words that come out of another person's mouth are external events. They are as external and as uncontrollable as the weather. To be disturbed by them, to believe you must change them, is a form of slavery to the external world. The Stoic warrior knows that true freedom and power lie in focusing exclusively on the one domain where he is a sovereign king, his own internal response. As Epictetus would say, it is not the words that hurt you, but your own assent to the judgment that those words are harmful. The benefit of this is a profound sense of liberation and personal power. You are no longer a helpless victim of what other people say. You become the calm, unshakable captain of your own ship, able to navigate any social storm with grace and skill. The actionable step to instill this mindset is the rudder check practice. The next time you're faced with criticism and you feel that familiar, powerful urge to argue, to control, and to change the other person's mind, you must pause. In that pause, you will ask yourself this clarifying question. Right now, is my focus on trying to control the ocean, or is my focus on controlling my rudder? This question will instantly reveal where you are placing your energy. Your job is to consciously and deliberately let go of the ocean and to bring all of your focus back to your own rudder. Your rudder is your own inner state. What is the calmest, wisest, and most virtuous way for me to respond right now, regardless of what the ocean is doing? This practice is the constant act of returning to the helm of your own ship. I challenge you to perform a rudder check the next time you find yourself in a verbal storm. Let go of the ocean. Master your rudder. Mastering the rudder means we must have a moment to think. Our next lesson is on the art of practicing calm thought before we ever formulate a response. To support our channel, please comment below and share one storm you are willing to let go of controlling. Lesson 4. Practice calm thought before response. Imagine a grandmaster of chess playing in the World Championship. His opponent has just made a powerful and threatening move, putting the grandmaster's king in a dangerous position. The entire world is watching. The pressure is immense. The novice player in this situation would react instantly. Driven by the fear of the threat and the pressure of the clock, he would make a quick, defensive, and likely disastrous move. He would react from a place of panic. The grandmaster, however, does something entirely different. He becomes perfectly still. He leans forward, his face a mask of profound, unshakable concentration. He does not see the threatening piece. He sees the entire board. He enters a state of deep, calm, and silent thought, sometimes for many minutes. He is not just thinking about his next move, he is thinking 10 moves ahead. He is accessing a place of deep, rational clarity, completely insulated from the immense pressure of the moment. Only after this period of calm thought does he reach out his hand and make his move. A move that is not a reaction, but a response born of deep, unhurried deliberation. The inner conflict we face is that when we are verbally checked by criticism, we are almost always the novice player. The painful problem is that our responses to criticism, especially when it is delivered in public or in a high-stakes environment, are almost always reactive, defensive, and poorly thought out. The sting of the criticism triggers our primal fight-or-flight response, and our rational mind goes completely offline. We blurt out the first defensive thing that comes into our head, we make clumsy excuses, or we lash out with a poorly aimed counterattack. These reactive responses almost always make us look weak, insecure, and guilty, even if the criticism was completely unfair. We lose the game not because our position was weak, but because we failed to take the time to think. The transformative solution is to train ourselves to become the grand master of our own minds. It is the disciplined practice of creating a sacred space for calm, rational thought before we ever formulate or deliver a response to a criticism. The core Stoic idea is that the wise person, the sage, never acts or speaks from a state of passion or emotional disturbance. He knows that his reason is his greatest tool, and that this tool is only effective when it is wielded from a place of calm. The Stoics were masters of the pause. They understood that the moment between a stimulus and a response is where wisdom is either won or lost. To respond without first thinking calmly is to surrender your greatest human advantage. The benefit of this is that your responses become incredibly powerful and effective. You stop making situations worse with your clumsy, reactive words. You develop a reputation for being thoughtful, wise, and unflappable under pressure. You will win more arguments, not by being a better debater, but by being a better thinker. The actionable step to cultivate this is to practice the strategic delay. You must build the habit of never responding to a significant criticism in the moment. You must give yourself the gift of time to think. This can be done by using a simple, powerful script. When you receive a criticism, especially in a work or public setting, your immediate response should be calm, neutral, and designed to create space. You will say something like, "Thank you for that feedback. That's a very interesting point. I'm going to need some time to think about that properly before I respond." And that is all you say. This is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of profound strength and confidence. You are communicating that you take the feedback seriously enough to give it real thought, and that you respect yourself enough not to be baited into a reactive emotional response. I urge you to use this script the next time you receive a challenging piece of feedback. Give yourself the space to think. Calm thought is only possible if you have a strong sense of self. How do we build an identity that is not shaken by criticism? That is our next lesson. Please subscribe to the Stoic Power channel to continue your training as a grandmaster of your own mind. Lesson 5. Strengthen identity through daily reflection. Imagine you are the captain of a great ship, and you are about to set sail on a long and perilous voyage. Before you leave, you must know your ship. You must know its strengths, its weaknesses, where it is strong, and where it might leak under pressure. A foolish captain would set sail without ever having inspected his own vessel. He would be a stranger to his own ship. When the first storm hits and a leak springs, he is surprised and unprepared. The inner conflict for many of us is that we are the foolish captain, attempting to navigate the perilous seas of life without a deep, honest, and daily familiarity with our own character. The painful problem is that when we do not have a strong and clearly defined sense of our own identity, we become incredibly vulnerable to the criticisms of others. If you do not know, on a deep and fundamental level, who you are and what you stand for, then you will be tempted to believe whatever the world tells you that you are. If someone calls you a failure, a small, insecure part of you will believe it, because you have no strong, internal counter-evidence to refute it. Your identity becomes a reflection of the last opinion you heard. This is a terrifying and powerless way to live, a life of profound instability, where your sense of self is constantly being defined and redefined by external forces. The transformative solution is to become the wise captain who knows his ship better than anyone else in the world. It is the daily Stoic practice of rigorous, honest self-reflection, the art of building an identity so strong and so well known to you that it cannot be shaken by the passing winds of other people's judgments. The core Stoic idea is that an unexamined life is a life lived in darkness. The Stoic's primary philosophical duty is to know thyself. The philosopher Seneca made it the most important part of his day to conduct a rigorous and honest review of his own actions, thoughts, and character. He was not doing this out of self-obsession. He was doing it to build a strong, virtuous, and reliable self. He was inspecting his own ship. The benefit of this is that you build a core identity that is based on fact, not on feeling or external opinion. When you know, through daily examination, that you are a person who strives to be honest, courageous, and disciplined, then when someone calls you a liar or a coward, their words have no purchase. It is like throwing a pebble at a granite mountain. You have an unshakable internal sense of your own character, and this is the ultimate shield against criticism. The actionable step to forge this identity is the daily character ledger. This is a simplified version of Seneca's evening review. For 1 week, at the end of each day, you will take 5 minutes with a journal and create 2 columns. The first column is virtuous actions. In this column, you will write down 1 or 2 specific instances from your day where you acted in alignment with the person you want to be. E.g., I remained calm in traffic when I felt angry. I told the truth when a lie would have been easier. The second column is areas for improvement. In this column, you will honestly write down 1 or 2 instances where you fell short of your own standards. E.g., I was impatient with my partner. I procrastinated on an important task. The goal of this ledger is not to judge yourself, but to know yourself. It is to gather the real, hard data of your own character, day by day. I challenge you to keep this ledger for 1 week. Become the captain who knows every plank and every sail of his own ship. This is the foundation of an unbreakable identity. But what if we could take the energy of criticism and use it to our advantage? Our next lesson is on the alchemy of turning feedback into quiet fuel. If you are ready to build a stronger identity, please like this video. Lesson 6. Turn feedback into quiet fuel. Imagine a master blacksmith at his forge. The forge is powered by a great roaring fire. A foolish blacksmith might see the fire only as a dangerous, destructive force to be feared and avoided. The master blacksmith, however, has a different relationship with the fire. He respects its power, but he does not fear it. He knows that the fire, when skillfully harnessed, is the very engine of all creation and transformation. It is the fire that purifies the metal, burns away its impurities, and makes it malleable enough to be shaped into a strong and beautiful sword. He uses the destructive power of the fire as a creative tool. The inner conflict for us is that we see all criticism, all negative feedback, as a purely destructive fire that threatens to burn us. The painful problem is that our ego's natural response to criticism is to see it as a personal attack. This causes us to become defensive, to shut down, and to reject the feedback completely, even if it contains a valuable piece of wisdom that could help us to improve. We are so focused on protecting ourselves from the heat of the fire that we refuse to allow it to purify us. This means we are doomed to repeat the same mistakes, to remain ignorant of our own blind spots, and to stagnate in our personal and professional growth. Our fear of the fire prevents us from ever forging a stronger version of ourselves. The transformative solution is to become the master blacksmith of your own character. It is the advanced Stoic art of learning to separate the heat of a criticism from the potential light it may contain. It is the discipline of using all feedback, even unfairly delivered feedback, as a quiet fuel for your own growth. The core Stoic idea is that the wise person learns from everyone and everything. The Stoic warrior is not so arrogant as to believe he has no flaws. In fact, he is on a constant, vigilant search for them, because he knows that identifying a flaw is the first step to correcting it. Therefore, a piece of criticism, even from an enemy, can be a valuable gift. It may be a harsh and unwelcome mirror, but it may still show a reflection of a truth that we have been unable to see ourselves. The benefit of this is that it turns you into a relentless learning machine. You are no longer limited by your own blind spots. You can extract value from every interaction, even the most negative ones. This accelerates your growth at an incredible rate and builds a deep, humble confidence based on a genuine commitment to self-improvement. The actionable step to practice this alchemy is the kernel of truth extraction. This must be done after you have calmed yourself and detached from the emotional sting of the criticism. Take out your journal. Write down the criticism. Then you will perform a two-step mental process. Step 1 is to discard the delivery. Consciously disregard the harsh tone, the unfair language, and the likely negative intent of the person who delivered the feedback. Mentally separate the message from the messenger. Step 2 is to search for the 1% kernel. Ask yourself with radical, dispassionate honesty, is there a tiny 1% kernel of truth in this criticism that I could use to become a better, stronger, or wiser person? For example, if someone angrily calls you arrogant after the sting has faded, you can ask, is it possible that my confidence has sometimes been perceived by others as arrogance? This is a useful reminder to practice more humility in my interactions. This is not about agreeing with the insult. It is about strategically and selfishly finding a way to profit from it. I urge you to try this difficult but powerful practice on one piece of criticism you have recently received. Find the fuel in the fire. This brings us to our final culminating lesson. How do we integrate all these practices so that an unshakable peace becomes our default state? Our final lesson will explore this ultimate goal. Please subscribe to the Stoic Power channel to complete your journey. Lesson 7. Unshakable peace becomes your default. Imagine a great ancient mountain, its peak reaching into the sky. It has endured for millennia. It has been battered by a million storms, scorched by a million suns, and frozen by a million winters. It has witnessed the rise and fall of empires at its feet. Its default state is one of profound, unshakable, and silent peace. It is not something it tries to do. It is what it is. A passing thunderstorm, a temporary blizzard of criticism, does not change the fundamental nature of the mountain. The storm is a fleeting event. The mountain is an eternal presence. The final and most aspirational stage of our journey is to stop seeing peace as a temporary state we must fight to achieve, and to start building it as the very bedrock of our character, our default way of being. The inner conflict is that we often view peace as a fragile state, a delicate flower that must be constantly protected from the harsh weather of the world. The painful problem with this is that it creates a new and subtle form of anxiety, the fear of losing our peace. We have a calm day, and we immediately start to worry about what will disrupt it tomorrow. We successfully handle one criticism, but we are anxious about the next one. Our peace is not a deep internal state. It is a temporary condition, contingent on the absence of external storms. This is not true peace. It is merely a truce, a temporary ceasefire in our ongoing war with the world. The transformative solution is the final, profound synthesis of all the lessons we have explored. It is to practice these disciplines with such consistency and dedication that your default state of being is slowly and surely transformed. The goal is to stop being the anxious person who is trying to be calm and to simply become the calm person. The core idea is that an unshakable peace is not an accident. It is the natural and inevitable result of a life lived with virtue and wisdom. It is the final reward for a character that has been diligently forged in the fires of Stoic practice. It is the emergent property of a life in which you consistently create emotional distance. You see criticism as a reflection of others' pain. You master your reactions. You think calmly before you respond. You strengthen your identity through reflection, and you turn all feedback into fuel. When you live this way, day after day, your nervous system literally changes. Your mind is rewired. Peace is no longer something you have to actively seek. It is simply what you are. You have become the mountain. The benefit of this is the ultimate prize of all philosophy. A life of profound freedom, resilience, and quiet joy. A life that is no longer thrown into turmoil by the trivial and uncontrollable opinions of other people. The actionable step to make this a reality is the daily integration vow. This is the practice that weaves all the other threads together into a single strong cord. Every morning, as the final part of your mindset ritual, you will make a quiet, sincere vow to yourself. You will say, either out loud or in your journal, "Today, I will live as a student of Stoic wisdom. I will remember that the words of others are external to me and cannot harm my inner character. I will practice the pause. I will listen for the lesson in all feedback. I will act from a place of reason and virtue. I will be the guardian of my own peace. My composure is my choice." By renewing this vow each morning, you are consciously and deliberately setting the course for your character for the day. You are reminding yourself of the person you are choosing to become. This is how you move from merely practicing Stoicism to truly living it. It is how unshakable peace becomes your natural default state. We have journeyed through the 7 great disciplines of the Stoic mind, from the creation of inner armor to the final profound state of becoming the stillness in the chaos. This ancient path teaches us that our freedom from the sting of criticism is not found in a world without critics, but in the cultivation of a mind so strong, so deep, and so rooted in its own virtue that the noise of the world becomes a faint and powerless echo. Thank you for taking this time to explore this path to unshakable inner peace. If this video has served you on your journey, please like this video, comment with your greatest takeaway, and subscribe to the Stoic Power channel for more wisdom on forging an unconquerable mind and a life of profound strength.